Zach, how you doing? You're good? All right. If I need you for anything, I shouldn't ask at all, right? All right.
Welcome to the 2025 Evening of Recognition hosted by the McPherson College Advancement Office. To begin, if you would, please join me in thanking our 4 students seated in the back that are part of the McPherson College Saxophone Ensemble for providing their music. Fabian, Andrew, and Alex, and if you want to hear more of their great music, come to Brown Auditorium Monday night, 7:30 p.m. for their end of the year concert. As the name of this event implies, this is an evening, a time for recognition. The recognition of some very special members of the McPherson College family. As you can see in your program, this includes recognition of our alumni receiving the Citation of Merit, over 200 Heritage Roll of Honor households, and donors to the President's Giving Club for the 2023 and 24 fiscal year. I want to start by recognizing some special groups of people that are in attendance here tonight from the McPherson College community. Would you please stand so we can individually recognize your group? First, current McPherson College faculty and staff, along with emeriti faculty and retirees at McPherson College. Please stand. We also want to recognize our current and past McPherson College Board of Trustees and Alumni Board of Directors. Would you please stand to be recognized? Thank you for the unique ways that you serve McPherson College with your talents. There will be more recognition to come later in the evening. At this time, before we begin eating, I'd like to invite Dr. Matt Skillen, McPherson College's Vice President for Academic Affairs and Chief Academic Officer, to provide our invocation. Following Matt's invocation, you can begin eating. Each of your tables will be served with the main course.
I invite all who are willing to join me in a posture of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together. As you have called us here this evening, you have brought together remarkable people who have been called to a special place in McPherson, Kansas that we call McPherson College. We thank thank you, Lord, for everyone who is here, for their dedication to the mission to educate whole persons, to engage with young people and to shape them and form them for the future that lies before them. We thank you, Lord, for this food that you provided, and we ask that you please bless it to the nourishment of our bodies. Lord, bless the hands that have prepared it as well. And as this room fills with laughter, we draw closer to one another, may we also draw closer to you. We say we pray in your gracious name.
We will resume our program at this time. We'd like to give a big thank you to Benny Lopez and the Sodexo catering team for their work tonight. And also a huge thank you to our McPherson College men's soccer team, which helped serve. Thank you all very much. On a side note, these young men, along with the entire Bulldog Athletic Department, was recognized earlier this year by the McPherson YMCA and the McPherson Recreation Commission as the 2024 Volunteer Organization of the Year. So, excellent. Citation of Merit. So the Alumni Board of Directors Awards Committee meets annually to select alumni award recipients. This includes the Young Alumni Awards, which are presented at Honors Convocation during homecoming weekend, and the Citation of Merit, which we will present tonight. While the college has many accomplished alumni, a Citation of Merit is given to a very small group of distinguished alumni each year. Inside your program, you will find the selection criteria for Citation of Merit recipients, along with the list of this year's recipients. To begin, we invite Richard Brindle, class of 1972, our first Citation of Merit recipient, to the stage. You'll be joined by Roger Trimble, class of 1974 and retired McPherson College coach and faculty member, who will be presenting. You can come forward.
Good evening, and it's really nice to look out and see so many of us that are associated with McPherson College. Good crowd here. Rick and I, Rick was a year ahead of me, and we would spend in the winter months probably about 3.5 hours each day since we were on the basketball team. I can still hear the foghorn voice of Don Woodbury ringing in my ears. Now, Rich was from Agawam, Massachusetts. Not sure how he got out here to McPherson, maybe he'll explain that. He was an integral part of our basketball program because they're a steady guy. You know, when you're playing sports, a lot of times you have the ups and downs on it, and you try to maintain a steady pace, which he did. So I'll give you a little snippet. I like to pick on the school that's just north of us in the same county. We, at that time, the KCAC had 12 schools, and we had 2 divisions, a northern division and a southern division. We were in the northern division with our arch rival. We went up their place, we lost the first game we played them. We had the rematch. Now, that put us a game behind them in the conference. We had a rematch back here at McPherson, and at that time we were playing in the Roundhouse. So we had a big game. A lot of students showed up, both teams. Really great atmosphere. We won that game. We had a paper mache bulldog at the time, and put together by the art department. Occasionally that bulldog would show up in the student union, we had some students bring it out to the game that night. So after the victory, they were parading around the gym floor with the paper mache bulldog. Now, they got in front of the Bethany student section and they paused a little bit too long. We had a little confrontation and some of the Bethany students piled out. A confrontation that turned into chaos. So security had to clear the floor, on it, which took a few minutes. And really the only victim of that was our paper mache bulldog. He is no longer with us at the time. Now, as fate would have it, we tied with Bethany for the Northern Division Championship. So, perhaps for security reasons, they moved the game to Tabor. And so we played to see who would go on to the NAIA playoffs there at Tabor. Security, the high security was really tight. The game was not. It was a bulldog beatdown. And because of that, we qualified for the NAIA playoffs that year. Now, and we've talked, he's been back, and we had lunch together, and we talked about some of the highs and lows of the season, emphasizing the highs and kind of skipping over the lows. We've come to the conclusion that the older we get, the better we were. So, Rick has a very impressive list of accomplishments. He graduated in 1972 as a history major, and he was senior class president. He did some military service. He served in the Connecticut and Colorado Air National Guard and was honorably discharged as a sergeant at that time. Then he went to work for Texaco. He worked his way up. He was a roustabout, the head roustabout, production foreman, and then drilling supervisor. And he led the ground floor of horizontal drilling for Texaco in the 1990s. This was quite an accomplishment. He was part of a 12-member team that went to Western Siberia for Texaco International for fracking and improving their pumping systems to increase production. After he retired from there, he became self-employed, worked at Patriot Consulting, and he was a drilling supervisor in various states around the United States, and was kind of in charge of all phases of the operation on that. And that included consideration for the safety and environmental factors, which were very paramount in importance there. As we look at his service, Rick belongs to the Epiphany Lutheran Church in Castle Rock, Colorado. He was the church president for 5 years, and he's continued to volunteer on church activities. Also a member of the Healing Waters International in Golden, Colorado. And as a volunteer, they assemble water purification units to be shipped to Africa and Central America. And then also a member of the Orphan Grain Train in Castle Rock, where they transport, sort, and pack donated clothes to ship to missions in former Soviet bloc countries and some U.S. locations. So still very active in different organizations here. So President Schneider, for his exemplary service to the profession, community, church, and college, it's my privilege to present Rick Brindle for the Citation of Merit.
First of all, I'd like to thank my friend Roger for that introduction. Roger and I have been known each other for a very long time. We spent a lot of time on the court together, and I don't know if Roger realizes it, but 53 years ago and 2.5 months, we walked off the court together for the last time. A half a century, and then some. And he continued on with an illustrious career, actually, with another year playing basketball for the college, and then went on to coach and had a very successful time there. Roger's one of these guys that if you knew him, he was a friend, he'd be a friend for life. I'd also like to thank the alumni group for choosing me. I'm absolutely humbled by this award. And, there are so many bright and brilliant people that have contributed so much to the well-being of McPherson College that I feel really humbled compared to some of the wonderful things that have been done. If you'll indulge me for just a couple of minutes, I wanted to tell you about a couple of high life and one low life in my time in McPherson. My first time when I flew into Wichita, I was just 17 years old. And back then they didn't have the jet bridges, so you got out of the plane and you had to drive up stairs. And I looked around at me from Western Massachusetts. I said, geez, there's no trees here. I looked out, I could see about 20 miles in all directions. Fast forward to college, and we were signing up for classes, and math was one of my weaker subjects, so I was trying to figure out what I could do to avoid any type of mathematics, so I decided I was going to get my Bachelor of Arts in History, which required very little having to take math classes. And while I was signing up in the old gym, they had everybody come in and you chose your classes, you stood in line. And this barrel-chested guy came walking up to me with this booming voice, introduced himself as Coach Woodard. And because of my height, he said, "Are you going to go out for basketball?" And I said, "Well, I didn't think I was good enough. I played basketball in high school, but I didn't think I was in college material." He said, "Well, let me decide that." So, anyways, that was the answer to that. I ended up playing 4 years, junior varsity and varsity. Those are a couple of highlights in my life. The one low life, and I see there's a lot of people here my age, maybe a few that are even older, and it was December 1st, 1969, and it was one of those days in infamy that if you lived then, you pretty well knew what I'm talking about. Back then we had a draft, and you didn't really know where you stood in the draft. And on December 1st, we were in Oklahoma City. I think we were playing Oklahoma Christian, and we gathered the whole team in there that night, and they had the lottery. If some of you people, the older people, remember that. And that was to put everybody that was born between 1944 and 1950 into a group, and they had a big glass jar with blue, little blue capsules, and each capsule had a birthday. And there was 366 of them in there, because between 1944 and 1950, there was 2 leap years. So if you were born on February 29th, you weren't going to escape. Well, anyways, as long as you were in college, you were able to have what they call the 2S affirmative. Otherwise, you were a 1A. Well, bottom line is McPherson College kept me out of Vietnam for those 4 years that I was in school. And when they drew the capsules out, the 32nd one to come out was my birthday. So it wasn't a matter of if I was going into the service, it was a matter of when. And so that allowed me to keep my nose clean. And I think we had could take 12 to 15 hours of credit per semester and pass, and you were okay until you graduated. Well, when I graduated in the following August, it didn't take very long, I got my letter, greetings, and so I thought, well, I've got a Bachelor of Arts in History, and nobody's gonna want to turn that down. So I ran down and joined the Connecticut Air National Guard and signed up and was sworn in that day. So that pretty much saved, so McPherson saved me on that. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. During my life, I had a very, very interesting life. I've been all over, and of course I want to congratulate my wife because she stuck with me for 45 years to a guy that wasn't always home and traveled. I was working, as Roger mentioned, 28 in western Siberia, about 1,500 miles from Russia, or from Moscow. But anyways, over the years, I didn't have the ability to be able to keep track of what was going on in McPherson because first of all, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones, so I'd just get bits and pieces, and I'd always try to figure out what was going on in the sports, both football and basketball. And sometimes it would be in the Denver Post, most times it wasn't because they played at night and never made the paper. But anyways, over the years, I always kind of watched what was going on and heard snippets here and there. And over the years, I'm just absolutely amazed at what this school has accomplished in at least the 50 years that I've been out of that school. And I can remember, and I don't want to embarrass this wonderful president we have, but when I first saw that they hired him to become president, I looked at it and I said, boy, this guy's awfully young, And you kind of think that people that they put for president of college, it's usually like some retired senator or somebody like that. Somebody with a huge Rolodex, And here I'm looking at this guy and I thought, boy, I don't know. And I have to admit, I am absolutely stunned what President Snyder has been able to accomplish in the last 19 years or 20 years, I think it is. And it became very apparent to me in a very short period of time that this gentleman is not only a visionary, but he's also must be very, very persuasive, and also he must be surrounded with absolutely wonderful people, and I've always have always been able to give, and fortunately when I worked for Texaco, they were able to match what I gave, so I've been able to do that for all these years, and I'm proud of that, but most of all, I'm proud of what this school has accomplished, especially in the last 25 years, when I've been able to get more information on what's going on, and I absolutely love coming back here to see my old roots. So, for me, anyways, it's a great day to be a local.
Our next Citation of Merit recipients are Paul Olominick and Marla Olominick. Marla is a class of 1987 grad and Paul class of 1989. Dr. Becky Bowman, class of 1998, and the McPherson College Professor of Communication will be presenting. You may come forward.
How long do you want to stand? It is such a joy to be here tonight, and even greater joy to get to present the Citation of Merit Award to two truly remarkable individuals who have dedicated their lives to service, to healing, and to making our community a better place. Dr. Marla Olominick and Dr. Paul Olominick, who also happen to be married. accomplished doctors and celebrate the rare magical feat of coexisting in harmony. Yes. Over shared parenting, shared household chores, shared calendars, and from what I understand, a shared do-it-yourself pickleball court in an old barn. Now that is commitment. Marla was a student at McPherson College when she first was introduced to the idea of Paul. Marla's brother was going to be joining the campus as a student, and Marla and her good friend Sue McPherson looked through the candidates to find a good roommate for her brother. They came across Paul's profile. Marla told me, he looked good and nerdy, like somebody who studied a lot. And that was not what my brother was, so we thought they'd make a fine pairing. However, you'd be wrong if you suspected that she met Paul by visiting her brother's college dorm. Marla's not sure exactly what happened because she went off to Germany for a year, but Paul ended up with some other person who I really hope isn't here tonight to hear this, because she tells me that he smoked a lot of weed and was a terrible roommate. It wasn't until a year later, when Marla returned from studying in Germany, that she and Paul really got to know each other at a Brother and Identity retreat at Camp Mount Hermon. Paul told me that he was a van driver for the event and that he only veered off the road a couple of times while driving there, and he said, I had to get her attention somehow. You gotta use what you got. Their union has led to a life building a family with 5 daughters and serving their community in countless ways. Let me start with Marla. Dr. Marla Olamenik is a force of nature, not just in medicine, but in mentorship, community service, and apparently in wrestling. According to her daughter Sarah, Marla could wrestle any boy in her school class to the ground. I believe it. Marla graduated first in her class from the University of Kansas School of Medicine. And she did it the old-fashioned way, through grit, perseverance, and hours of hard work. And that drive has not slowed down. She won the Meade Johnson Award for Graduate Education and Family Practice. She also won the Resident Teacher Award from the University of Kansas School of Medicine. She's been the medical director at Pine Village, a co-director of KU's regional network site, and she's worked tirelessly to train and guide future medical professionals through mentoring, precepting, and volunteering as a clinical assistant professor. She's a board member, a director, a volunteer, and by her daughter's accounts, a Wednesday afternoon tea party host with a surprising knack for current events and cookies. Marla's daughter Rebecca said that what began as a quiet after-school snack turned into a weekly Wednesday tea time, a tea and discussion circle with her daughters and their friends. Sometimes they even held it when none of the daughters themselves were at home. Rebecca recalled that Marla loved the discussion. She loves to make people think and articulate their ideas. Marla's kind of leadership isn't loud or flashy, it's deeply thoughtful. It shows up in long hours after work, triple checking charts and making sure that every patient gets her best. She served her church through projects in Puerto Rico, serving on the leadership team, on the district outdoors ministry team, and at church camp. And as somebody who was guided by Marla in the delivery room when my own children came along, and for somebody who has trusted her own family in her care, I can say that there is no one more deserving of this recognition. But there is someone equally deserving, and that would be Paul. Dr. Paul Olamenik also graduated from the University of Kansas Medical School and then later earned his master's in public health from KU. Go Jayhawks. He is a family physician, board-certified superhero, and has been a school board member, served the McPherson College Board of Trustees for 2 decades. He's been a guest lecturer, a rural medicine advocate, and perhaps most impressively, a mad ultimate frisbee player and a former middle school student who almost failed math because he was too busy applying his creativity to co-authoring a Dungeons and Dragons movie game. This is true?
Yes.
Okay. That same wild creativity that has powered his parenting and his work with kids and youth through the church. including leading the youth team and serving as a counselor and director at Camp Colorado. When I asked some of the youth in our church about their experience with Paul, they said to me, "He's so funny. He brings joy to everything he does. He's genuine. You can really tell that he cares about us." I personally witnessed his creativity through puppetry during children's stories at church, which, if you haven't seen me, trust me, it's worth the price of admission. But perhaps more notably, that creativity has been found in his projects with the Haiti Medical Project. Following the devastating 2010 earthquake in Haiti, he worked tirelessly to bring a better quality of life to Haitians impacted by that event. And even more impressively, he's inspired countless others to join him in that work, whether it's through work trips or fundraising. Paul is the kind of person who finds adventure in everything, from building things in the yard to mentoring young people. One of his daughters said, "I'm convinced he can make any job fun." I believe that too. Their daughter Rebecca told me, "He's really great at meeting kids on their own level and involving them in stuff. He doesn't just do it while he's working in the youth group, but he takes time out of his day to connect with them outside of the youth group too. I know he started driving several kids to a pickup frisbee group at noon because they didn't have a ride." Paul and Marla are founding members of Partners in Family Care, a private health clinic that not only serves Central Kansas, but also now has provided health care to countless McPherson College students since 2015. Some colleges just have a health clinic. We have the Olympics. Together, they've raised 5 amazing daughters. Their family adventures have led to 8-hour hikes, which your daughter Helen told me only included minor mining, biking epic distances, strategically using ice cream bribes, and turning everyday moments into lessons, adventures, and even ministry. There is a quote that I think of when I think of Paul and Marla. It's from author Annie Dillard, and she writes, "How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives." Paul and Marla, they spent their days pouring into others with intelligence, compassion, creativity, faith, and a wicked sense of humor. They built a life full of meaning, and in doing so, they've made our lives better too. I think of how many students on our college campus lead better lives because of the accessible health care that they have at our medical clinic. Your work multiplies because you help our students be their best to lead their lives with meaning too. You are impacting the world. You two are a force of nature, a dynamic duo, and a true inspiration. You've touched countless lives with your healing hands, your generous spirits, and your unwavering commitment to service. You are the embodiment of the McPherson College spirit. President Schneider, for their exemplary service to their profession, community, church, and college, it is my privilege to present Paul and Marla Olominick for their citation of merit.
Words and also for creating something with our children. Facebook Messenger, we also want to thank the members of our family who are here tonight and who have always been there over the years to support us as well.
McPherson College alumni include servant leaders spread across the globe, and to even be considered for this recognition is a humbling experience. We were relieved that of all the things that could have been said about us, I chose mostly to focus on the positive. It's been a long time since we graduated. Those years have been filled with successes and failures. What successes we have had not sprung from our own wisdom, but from the wisdom of those around us. McPherson College has long been a source of wisdom like that, the sort of place that can inspire people. The faculty and staff have been and are still passionate and committed to bringing out the best in people. It's a place where you learn about integrity in choir, and you learn about truth sitting across the desk in the dean's office. It's a place where what you learn may not always be on syllabus. It's a place where you can learn so much that you realize you know nothing at all, and you still feel the better for it.
So we graduated from McPherson in the late 80s, and we're fortunate to be able to return to the area in the late 90s. But although we were no longer students at that point, the college really continued to play a role in our lives. It gave us opportunities to attend college events, build relationships with persons who were faculty and staff, and of course more recently in our role as physicians in the on-campus clinic. So now about half of my patient care hours are actually spent in the on-campus clinic. And that has provided me with a unique opportunity to see the college through a completely different lens than I've had in the past. So I hear stories of how students experience the college, their classes, their relationships with their professors, their coaches, each other, their plans for the future. And I continue to be very impressed with McPherson College, and I'm proud to be a McPherson College alumna.
For all those many ways that McPherson College has been a foundation, a meeting place, and a launching pad, we are very grateful. Thank you all.
Now I'd like to invite the Apple siblings and their alumni spouses to come to the stage. McPherson College President Michael Schneider will be presenting them with their citation of merit. So this is a story that starts with Hans and Glenna Apple, who raised a family of 5 in Curlew, Iowa. As we go, you'll all be wanting to know why or how Hans and Glenna got all 5 of their children to McPherson College. And I would tell you that the why and the how are a lot less relevant to this story than the who. The who Colleen, Gail, Mark, Bruce, and Lori, as well as their alumni spouses would become. But let's start the story at the beginning here. So Hans Apple was a handsome milk tester who came to Gwenna Grossnickel's farm in Iowa once a month. Gwenna's mom liked Hans, so she set them up and they were married in 1950. Hans was devoted to his work on the farm and served as the mayor. He was passionate about soil conservation before being green was popular. Gwenna Grossnickel Apple was a layperson, a preacher, a singer, a grocery store operator, a church piano player, a cow and pig chaser, and once a writer, apparently, and a friend to everyone. And many at McPherson loved Gwenna's cook-to-order breakfast we'd get when we stopped to visit them when we were on one of our long Iowa road trips. Both were committed to the Church of the Brethren and to their children. So I can't imagine what it would have been like to arrive at the Apple House as a McPherson College recruiter. So the late Merlin France and Eugene Lichty were among the many from the college to solicit the young Apple children into starting their American dream at McPherson College. So Gwenna regretted not going to college. Her siblings attended McPherson College, but she did not. And it was clear that all 5 of these Apple kids would attend McPherson College. Class of 1974 is the oldest. She attended McPherson for 2 years and finished her degree in elementary education. She was living in Minnesota. She loves to write and committed her life to serving students with a focus on service learning and community involvement. Her younger brother, Mark, recalls, that's
pause. Create a little drama here always. She got me through kindergarten roundup by sitting with me at the lunch table and letting me know I didn't have to eat that awful peanut butter sandwich. Her sister Gail recalls the time, if you remember this, when you gave her recital. Your mom and dad drove all the way down from Iowa to come watch your recital and drove back. Always a big sister, Colleen had a 21-year career as a public school teacher and is now an active volunteer in her church and community dealing with grief, providing shelter, and ensuring affordable housing. Gail came to McPherson College a couple years later and would graduate in 1996. She is a professor. Oh, no, 1976.
It took a long time.
Practices too. That was my class here. So. Little slip. She's a professor, an artist. You can drop by and see one of Gail's beautiful watercolors right next to a San Zane at the President's Home. She is a fitness fanatic, according to her McPherson Sentinel column that debuted in 1992 when she was the YMCA fitness director. She's had a distinguished career as a tenured member of the K-State faculty. She directed the Center of Aging and is currently a part-time associate dean. She has served on the McPherson Alumni Board and is currently advising McPherson College on our new rural healthcare initiative. So when I invited Gail to campus a few months ago to tour some of our new facilities and meet our faculty to help us out with some of the work we're doing in healthcare, one of our relatively new McPherson College faculty member asked if this was the Dr. Gail Dole from Kansas State University, who's the director of the Center of Aging, and I replied yes. She quickly went on to share that Gail's class on aging was the best class she had ever had. And today, this faculty member at McPherson College is modeling a new class at McPherson College after Gail's. So Gail tells me that she fell in love with McPherson College pretty quickly, and then we all know that she fell in love with this guy standing next to her from Wamego, Kansas. See, the same Merlin France who recruited Gail to come to the 5 men to 1 woman ratio McPherson College also recruited Rick Dole with there's 5 women and 1. Is that how this works?
I know. He said that's where you find the woman to marry.
That's that. So Rick also has a heart for education and went into teaching. He was one of McPherson College's first Young Alumni Awards recipients. He was a Kansas Superintendent of the Year when he was at the Lawrence School District, and for nearly 2 decades he served as my boss on the McPherson College Board of Trustees with a term as our board chair. I remember meeting Rick early on in our friendship, and when he was a superintendent at Lewisburg. And I arrived a few minutes early. I showed up into his office, and his assistant said, well, Rick's running late. She followed up very quickly, bragging that Rick loves to work with the elementary school kids, that so much that sometimes he fills in the substitute at the elementary school when needed. Gail and Rick are both active in their church and mentors to many in their field. Now for the middle child, Mark, a class of 1978. Mark studied animal science at McPherson College and plant pathology at Kansas State University. He was on the football team and served on student council. He went back to work on the family farm from 1980 to 1985, and then he decided to begin a new career in construction, working as a field superintendent for prime construction, which would lead to positions at other national companies in project management and design engineering. And along the way, Mark has been devoted to his church and McPherson College, serving on the alumni board. He retired in 2019 to care for his wife, Kathy, who passed away in 2021. Kathy, class of 1982, attended for 2 years and served in a variety of roles at Kansas State's global campus, retiring as the Director of Program Development and Management. She received her MBA from the University of South Dakota and worked at both Fortune 500 companies and small companies. According to Mark, their 2 sons and their wives have given them, I quote, the most intelligent and the best looking grandchildren in the country. So Paul, his son, is here today with his dad, and I wanted to share a class note that was collected from Kathy many, many years ago. The class note read, "We're expecting a baby soon." And then there's a little note from staff, baby boy named Paul. Bruce, class of 1983. Bruce went on to be a professor and researcher with stops at the University of Utah, University of Oregon, and Vanderbilt University. And since 2008, he is the Diane Wallet Chair of Pediatric Stem Cell Biology, as well as professor and head of the section of Departmental Biology and Department of Pediatrics. Bruce was recognized by McPherson College with a Young Alumni Award in 2003. When Bruce was a student, he had a big fan on campus who would write Hans and Gwenna, keeping them up to speed on how he was doing. There are multiple letters in the advancement file, Bruce, from one Eugene Littke, back and forth to your folks in Iowa. An early one reads, I just spoke with your son Bruce. He tells me he is getting by and that his grades are considerably above average. A few years later, Eugene writes to Hans and Gwenna that Bruce seems to be embarrassed when I brag upon him. And then I find out that Eugene has another motive here, because Bruce would graduate from McPherson College and go to work in the advancement office, which he did for 2 years as our very first campaign coordinator. In various correspondences with your folks, he said you did a fine job. And in another letter in 1984, Eugene confesses to Hans and Gwenna that it will be difficult to find a replacement for Bruce, but we do think he should go on with his graduate education if that is what he so desires. So Bruce, don't get too excited. Back when McPherson College did phonathons, we would entrust some of our very best graduates to contact their classmates and solicit gifts. And it turns out your sister, Gail, was one of Eugene's regular phonathon callers. In 1978, Eugene attempted to get Gail back to campus to make calls for him. She wrote Eugene back a letter letting him know that she would not be able to come back because they had other plans. So if you know Eugene Littke, you can imagine the response back. He very assertively wrote Gail back and said, no problem, enclosed our 17 telethon slips of members of your class for whom we have no telephone number. If you could kindly find a listing for your classmates, we'll reimburse you for the call. So, Bruce, it was likely your sister's fundraising prowess that got you that first job at McPherson College. Bruce married Joelle Neer, class of 1984. Joelle isn't here tonight, but she went on to have an outstanding career as an operating room RN specializing in cardiothoracic surgery in Utah, Oregon, and Tennessee. She now practices acupuncture, and both she and Mark are active in their local community and church. And now for the little sister, Lori Apple, class of 1985. She is not present tonight, but we want to recognize her 30 years of service working in family preservation, foster care, adoption, and as a caseworker for individuals with developmental disabilities. In a letter to Lori dated June 1981 from, you got it, one Eugene Littke, right after seeing Lori at your grandparents' golden wedding anniversary, Eugene writes, I hope you have not given up entirely on the possibility of coming to McPherson College. This is after Eugene, he got 4 of them there. He wanted to get that last apple sibling. I was presently surprised at all the McPherson people at your grandparents' anniversary party, who are members of your family as well as friends of the family. This is one of the strong benefits of attending McPherson College. That is the lasting friendships that are made here. 2 things to wrap up my comments. First, thank you to your parents, Hans and Gwen, for believing in the power of education and sending you all to us. Thank you, all 5, and your spouses, for choosing careers that make a difference in the world and for being leaders in your chosen field. Thank you for all your support over the years. You are ideal McPherson College graduates who have lived out our mission to develop whole persons through scholarship, participation, and service. And finally, during one of my last visits with your folks, longtime McPherson College fundraising expert Jim Dodson and I were at the family farm to work with them to start an endowed scholarship. They had already worked out all the details on the amount, so there wasn't much asking. Rather, it was an emotional event, as both of your parents had a sense of pride over the fact that they were able to honor the family with an endowed scholarship and a humble disbelief that neither of them could imagine being able to give so much back to McPherson College in honor of their children. It was one of the best moments of my professional career to see your dad, tears welling up in his eyes, as he reflected on all 5 of you kids and your mom carefully walking us through all the things you and your children had done. She reminded us very clearly that there are a lot of degrees in the Apple family and a lot of good out in the world because of it. So after Jim and I got our traditional tour of the farm and an update on an old car Hans hoped to get running, and I was unsuccessful in that task. We went to the car and sat there for a few minutes quietly, and Jim Dotson says, "This is why I love McPherson College. This family's special, and we've gotten to be a small part of it." That was the last visit Jim and I did together before he retired. Colleen, Gail, Mark, and Bruce, as you scatter back out into your own smaller families, know that your family serves as an inspiration for me as we build a future at McPherson College that is on a trajectory like nothing else in higher education. And my promise to you is that we're building this for your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. For your exemplary service to their profession, community, church, and college, it's my privilege to present the Apple siblings and their alumni spouses with the McPherson College citation.
First, I'd just like to say that after standing on the stage for however minutes, I'm pretty glad that our parents didn't have more kids. Secondly, I would like to thank President Snyder and Candy, because every successful president has to have a really smart woman behind them. The Board of Trustees and McPherson College for honoring us in this way. President Snyder already talked a lot about our parents, and I want to just double down on that. They were really smart people. They were the firstborn in their families, and they didn't go to college, but I know that they really wanted to. And so they made sure that we had that opportunity that they didn't have or they didn't take. And then I wanted to tell you just one little thing, because we need to move on to this thing. So 49 years ago, right about now, Rick and I were having thoughts about leaving this college that we loved so much. And I can remember the feelings of pride and love and joy I felt for this place. And I have to say that it is only eclipsed by the feelings of excitement we have now for what's going to happen to the future of this college, because of all the work that you've all done to make it really something special. So for that, we all thank you.
Heritage Roll of Honor. The Heritage Roll of Honor exists to recognize those persons who have shared their intention to leave an estate gift for McPherson College. The college has benefited greatly from estate gifts made by alumni and friends. Those previous estate gifts, along with future estate gift commitments, will continue to have a transformational impact on McPherson College. Listed in your program are the names of the over 200 current and recently deceased Heritage Roll of Honor member households. At this time, will all Heritage Roll of Honor members please stand so that we may recognize you for the commitment you have made to the future of McPherson College. There were 5 new Heritage Roll of Honor members who made state gift commitments since the Evening of Recognition event last year. While none of the new members were able to be here tonight, I will share a bit about them now, along with the impact they want their legacy gift to have at McPherson College. Our first new Heritage Roll of Honor member is Jeffrey Lagoon. Residing in Hillsboro, Oregon, Jeff led Advanced Technology Group, a commercial construction services company, for 35 years. He is also a car collector and owner of an automobile restoration and repair facility in Portland. In referring to the impact Jeff would like his estate gift to have at MC, he said, "My gift is to provide support to the outstanding automotive restoration program at McPherson, and to hopefully promote students interested in carrying forward my family's 5-generation love of the preservation of vintage automobiles." Our sincere appreciation to Jeff for his estate gift commitment to McPherson College. Next is Claudia Law. Claudia is a 1971 graduate of McPherson College, living here in McPherson. She has been a part of the McPherson College family all her life. Her parents, Merlin and Iowa Jean France, were iconic figures in the life of the college. Claudia has 3 grown children and many grandchildren. She worked for Angel Arms Home Care for many years alongside her sisters, Lynn and Donnell. In referring to the impact Claudia would like her estate gift to have at MC, she said, "McPherson College has been important to my family for 4 generations. I hope my gift will enable McPherson College to continue to train dedicated teachers for many more generations." Our sincere appreciation to Claudia for her estate gift commitment to McPherson College. Joseph and Jacqueline Yabernitsky. Joe and Jackie from Strongsville, Ohio met when they were 19 years old. They ran a dental practice together while Joe taught anatomy at his alma mater, Baldwin Wallace, for 30 years. For 48 years, Jackie has worked alongside Joe in dentistry, the restaurant business, and restoring cars, specifically Volkswagens. In referring to the impact Joe and Jackie would like their estate gift to have at MC, the Yabernitsky said, "We would like to give our final estate to the automotive restoration program because of our deep passion for auto restoration." Our sincere appreciation to Joe and Jackie for their estate gift commitment to McPherson College. Again, thank you to all our existing and new Heritage Roll of Honor members.
At this time, we would like to remember those Heritage Roll of Honor members that we've lost since we were last together, the last evening of recognition. Our friends, family members, classmates that make up over 401 years of life and over 100 years of financial support to McPherson College. These are the images of those members who have paid it forward for so many of us. Family members of these special MC Heritage Roll of Honor members were given roses when they arrived this evening. These roses are a remembrance of your loved one and a special connection they had with MC. At this time, I would like to have President Schneider rejoin me on stage. President Schneider will recognize the 2023-24 President's Club members.
So, those of you who have been doing this with us for a while, you remember the story. It began in a van. story of how the President's Associates started. I mentioned Eugene Lichtman earlier, and it's only fitting to share his It Began in a Van story as we celebrate 45 years of the President's Associates, or as we know it today, the President's Club. So, according to Eugene Lichtman's daily reminder for the year 1979, and confirmed by Joanna Hoffman's diary, it was June 14th at 7 McPherson College employees were returning from a Council for Advancement of Secondary Education Institute, Wisconsin. The folks involved were the Hoffmans, the Frances, the Holmans, and Connie Andes, as well as the Lichties. At the Institute, they were challenged to develop programs that would help keep small colleges alive. So, as Eugene says, rather than flitter or sleep away or traveling time, they got busy and decided to have an impromptu development meeting. Everybody had heard President Hoffman's speeches about small colleges disappearing, and they were very aware of McPherson College and the challenges with operating in the red. Merlin France actually had this dream that someday we could get 1,000 alumni and friends to give $1,000 each to raise $1 million in any given year. Even though it looked like pie in the sky, they decided to go for it. They created the President's Associates, which I would argue could be, that's where our tradition of philanthropy and giving really started. And I would say is a huge difference maker in us operating over the decades. It started as idea in a van and is celebrating 45 years as our total unrestricted giving is up to over $2 million a year. For 21 consecutive years, annual fundraising goals have been reached, contributing to a balanced budget and much progress implementing our strategic plans. The single most important group that has made this possible is our President's Club donors. McPherson College would not be where it is today without the network of generous and committed annual fund donors. The President's Club donors make contributions of at least $500 for the McPherson College Fund or academic program specific gifts during each academic year. In fiscal year 23-24, a total of 281 President's Club households contributed $2.1 million. And because of these contributions, we're in the 6th year of the Student Debt Project. President's Club donors have ensured $1 million in matching money has gone to help students lower or eliminate college debt. Debt per graduate is down nearly $12,000 per student since we started this program. That's a big deal. We can award students over $14 million in McPherson College institutional financial aid. We add and enhance programs like health science, auto restoration, teacher education, engineering, information technology, graphic design, communications, business. All of our programs at some point or the other are going through program reviews or growth initiatives or finding new ways to polish up their programs and make them relevant in the market. In addition, we've added new positions and new professional advising team, academic support, belonging, and mental health counseling. President's Club donors provide the means to invest in program growth, which is key to our strategy. We have full-time faculty with the highest average salary among all Kansas privates. When you look at the 4 bands of our faculty, each one of those bands is usually in the 78th percentile. That's great progress that allows us to attract the most talented faculty who are interested in being a part of our liberal arts tradition. So although your gifts are unrestricted, your gifts are not being used to pay the light bill anymore, like many other small colleges in Kansas. We use your gifts to take the risk, that the good things that you're talking about, somebody has to start something, try something, make a little investment, do a little experiment. It allows us to do those things to create these programs across campus, to grow and to build a bridge to our future endowment. Tonight I want to express my appreciation on behalf of McPherson College, our entire community, to all of our 2023-24 President's Club contributors. Eric loves audience involvement. So if you're in the President's Club, please stand and be recognized. Supporters for a long time. You have answered our phone calls, opened your homes for visits, and given each March on our Power Day year after year. There's one such graduate who has answered every single call since 1979 when the President's Club was introduced, and that's McPherson. So a lot of people know Esmer passed away a couple weeks ago at age 100. You could always count on two things from Esmer. He always wore his trademark overalls, and he had the longest streak as a President's Club member. He never missed a year of unrestricted giving to McPherson College. So this year we welcome 45 new households. We welcome 45 new households in 2023. I want to recognize the folks who are here tonight: Bruce Apple, Rusty Fouché, Charles and Sigrid Warner, Billy and Christy Jameson, and Bob Wilson. Thank you for joining us as new members this year. I also want to give a shout out. We're all getting older, and so it's nice to see some youth in the crowd. And so for 2 years in a row, the Longs and the Allisons have a date night to join us over at table 5. They get babysitters and have a little date night. Thank you for your support as young alums. And thanks to all of you. We're grateful to have you in the President's Club. So as I close, I want to first start by recognizing the advancement team. Thanks to Kendra Flory, Dave Barrett, Lindsay Berge, Billy Jameson, Eric Vogel, Amanda Gutierrez. I put this advancement team, fundraising team, up against anybody in this country. When you look at what we raise, how much it costs us to raise $1, it is unprecedented. When I talk to my colleagues who are running billion-dollar campaigns out there, they can't believe that we have like 6 of us who are out there, and that's how we like it. And this is a proud group that is so happy to continue the tradition and the work that was started all those years ago when it began at a van. So as we build a bridge to our future endowment, because of your annual support, we've accomplished so much this year. Record enrollment, nearly cracking 1,000 students. Some of you former board members will really appreciate this. The very best Higher Learning Commission accreditation visit in our history was this April 14th to the 15th. We look for a positive report this summer as we saw significant improvements in assessment and financial stability. The $1 billion commitment and the Path to Pebble Beach press generated millions of impressions and millions of dollars in free publicity for McPherson College, but the recent segment featuring McPherson College's automotive restoration program on CBS Sunday Morning will have at least a 4 times impact of both of those 2 big news stories combined. And that's remarkable. I read that and you just can't believe it. We've spent so many years working so hard to promote McPherson College and to see the programs across campus that generate recognition and the grace and the work that Amanda and crew are doing in auto restoration to remind people that the most important part about that program is our liberal arts degree program. Our congressionally directed earmark is being spent down as we improve biology and chemistry labs in Melbourne and build a new state-of-the-art health science class lab. New partnerships have been announced. McPherson College students will have the opportunity for direct admission to KU Medical School, and students will see additional programming with KU Medical School in Salina. We're working on some other partnerships. I mentioned that Gail Dole's been helping us, so we're hoping maybe there's something with Kansas State University in the near future. It's also worth mentioning that we have a new partnership with the local YMCA, which will bring some fitness-related things to the McPherson College campus and provide some opportunities for students at their place. Every McPherson College student next year will have a free membership to the local YMCA. I'll point out that we're doing really interesting study and white paper on the work, the partnership that we've had with the local hospital, McPherson Center for Health. As you remember, we started that partnership in 2018, and we've been plunking along through a pandemic. And I was fortunate enough to take a tour through there and realize what an impact that the college and the hospital are having together, and the sense of camaraderie. And there was a direct quote from an employee that said, "Morale at the hospital is better since the college students started showing up over here." And that's a big deal. All of this I can tell you, and we're just getting started. I'm confident that we'll accomplish everything and more outlined in our Community by Design 2.0 plan. So let me close with two of my favorite stories from this year. Eric shared that usually they pick a person in the local community that's a local volunteer of the year for the YMCA and the Rec Commission, and they picked the McPherson College athletic department. So Josh Dahmer, athletic director, is here. We see him really congratulate the way he has really leaned into service across campus. It was early in the fall, just an example of some things that our students are doing. So this is a note we received earlier this fall from a local elementary school principal. I'm just going to read it quickly. I want to take a moment to share a wonderful story about the kindness and initiative shown by some of your volleyball players last week. Last Friday, your team was at Eisenhower Elementary School to help Greek students when they noticed one of our young students who recently moved to McPherson and speaks very little English looking distressed. Your players realized that he was upset because he couldn't participate in our early Halloween dress-up as Spider-Man. Without hesitation, Daniela Jimenez, Louisiana Sandrone, and Zoe Fernandez went above and beyond. They took it upon themselves to purchase a Spider-Man costume for him and return with it later in the morning, turning what began as a difficult morning into one he'll never forget. Their kindness brought so much joy to him and made a deep impression on our entire staff. So this next story happened recently. Local police department posted and tagged McPherson College in social media posts. So they usually let me know when those things happen, and you get the butterfly and you wonder what's happened there after all college, and there are college students, and so the post read, at about 6 p.m. a deputy was responding to an emergency call when he had a tire blowout. While changing the tire, McPherson College students stopped and assisted with getting the tire changed faster so he could get back to his call. We appreciate the backing and support from those who serve daily. So after reading that, I called Chief Golden, and he said, this never happens. People never stop, let alone a college student. But this kid did in a real time of need for one of our officers. He had the courage to stop, and that was extraordinary. So there's no question that McPherson College will continue to change as we develop our future on this new trajectory. There is also no question that we will remain committed to our mission. Your lives and those of our current students are evidence that our mission is right and making an impact on the communities we serve. Enjoy the rest of your evening. It is a great day